everyone. It's so good to be able to be here and connect with everyone in Delhi. We've never really had much of an opportunity to know each other personally, but we really look forward to really making deep connections and building on this relationship. I can see that Dan and Keshav have done a wonderful job by the smiling and beaming faces that sit before us. As Narayani will probably tell you the reasons why she came to be with Swamiji, I don't think I can boast of any particular qualities or any reasons on my part that made me spend these last 7 months with him. The only good thing I did was marry Narayani. 7 months with Swami, 8 months with Narayani. But in Swami's perfect practice of what comes of itself, let it come, Swami let me come. And I've never felt more embraced and more loved in my life, even though Swami didn't really need to have me around. He didn't need to allow me to be and spend as much time with him as I did, and to travel with him and be able to help him more personally. But such is the power of Swami's love and his inclusiveness and his acceptance of who you are. And it's just been such a great pleasure to be able to spend this time with him and to get to know him both more personally, but to see him more as such a divine channel for Master. And it just, especially towards these last few months, you just didn't know when Swami was being Swami and when he was being Yogananda. Because more and more what Swami was doing is removing himself from the picture and allowing Yogananda to flow through, to touch everyone's lives, to help build this mission. As I was sharing yesterday with people in Gurgaon, Ananda's astrologer Drupada defines Swami as Yogananda's Hanuman, who really went out there and fulfilled Ram's, Yogananda's mission. And just as I was fortunate enough to spend 7 months of Swami's life with him, I was also fortunate to spend his death with him. And in a twist of fate, normally I wouldn't have been there, and as everything usually happens, God helps and takes an active part in your life and allows you to be in certain key moments even though you normally wouldn't have. Because on any other day I would have been at the community going for the morning meditations. The meditation starts at 7 at the SEC community and it's around a kilometer from Swami's house. And so I would normally leave 6:45, but a few weeks before Swami left, I made a resolute decision to be lazy and to sleep longer on Sundays. And it so happened that Swami chose to leave his body on a Sunday. I happened to be at home. It was around 7:30, and all of a sudden I heard, we lived downstairs and Swami lived upstairs in this house in a CC, and I heard a loud Shurjo, and I came running up, and Swami was sitting at his dining table. He had just gotten ready to eat his breakfast. Jaithara, who was his cook, was cooking him pancakes, and when I arrived, Swami's he wasn't breathing anymore, and his heart wasn't beating anymore. And as I was told, what had happened was, all of a sudden as Swami sat down, Narayani realized that Swami had this really distant look in his eyes. All his movements were extremely slow, as you could feel that this body was no longer real to him. He was already making his final journey. But all of a sudden there was a movement, a certain tensing of the body from the feet up all the way to the face, and everything became a little tight and contorted. It says that when the soul exits of a realized the ink, the soul exits from the Sahasrara. And I think that's exactly what was happening over there. Swami's soul was rising and was ready to leave. And anyway, so he tensed and just for a few seconds and then relaxed, and that was the first time he left. And when I got there, Miriam, Swami's nurse, and Narayani were trying to revive Swami, and so I got there. Miriam asked me to chant Om into Swami's right ear, so we were just chanting Om, Om, and Miriam and Narayani were saying, Swami, breathe, and suddenly Swami took a deep breath, and we were like, oh, thank God, he's fine. And so what we did is we dragged his chair, because he was too heavy to lift. We dragged his chair to his bedroom, lifted him up onto the bed, and he was still just breathing, but in intervals of maybe 30-40 seconds. And then again, when he got to the bed, again he wasn't breathing for another long period, so we started chanting Om again. And again someone said, Swami, breathe. He took a breath. So you could see he was fighting between listening and coming back to his disciples and merging back into the infinite bliss of God. And I think he made the right decision to merge back, but that is the love that Swami had. Even though he had this opportunity to leave, you could see he still felt that he wanted to also be there and comfort his disciples, and it was just a very sweet and touching moment. By this time, the spiritual directors of Assisi, Swamis Anand and Kirtani, they arrived, and a few seconds later, Narayani shouted to Swami's ear, Swami, breathe, and he just took one last breath, very deep, and Swami Anand was holding Swami's feet at that moment, and he suddenly felt again a little tensing and then complete relaxation. And then after that, no matter what we did, Swami didn't breathe, and we knew that he's actually finally left. And then we just kept chanting Om, Om for maybe another 15 minutes, and then we just sat in silence, meditated as much as we could, between crying a lot. But at that moment, the peace that was in the air, the energy that was in that room was so incredible, and you could truly feel Swami merging back and Master welcoming Swami home. After that, Lakshman, who was Swami's personal assistant, in his always being dharmic and always doing what's right, rather than immediately coming to see Swami, be there with him, sat down on his computer, started sending emails out to let everyone know that Swami's made his final journey home. And we let the community know. Then some of the Narayani, Miriam, Kirtani, they cleaned Swami. He was wearing his morning bathrobe, cleaned him with a towel, put on his Naya Swami robes, and then we carried Swami to the temple in Assisi, where his body lay, and the whole community had an opportunity to come and gather and meditate around him and just be in his presence. And it was, he was there for a week. It was the most powerful week anybody had ever witnessed. We had people from all over the world, all the spiritual directors come to Assisi, constantly giving talks, discourses, talking about Swami and how he worked with each one of them in such an individual, in such a close way. And especially Jaya, who gave a beautiful talk about how he never really had that bond with Swami. He never really got that opportunity to be as close to Swami as some of his older friends did, even though Jaya was perhaps one of the first few people to join Ananda and start the community with Swami, but never did he feel separate from Swami, never did he feel for a moment that Swami loved someone else more than he loved him. And that's what we witnessed with every one of the community members. They all stood up, they all had an opportunity to share, and what everybody shared was Swami's deep divine friendship. Everybody felt Swami was their best friend. Everybody felt that Swami was there only for them. And that was what Swami did. He made us all feel special because we all are indeed very special. And towards the last few days of Swami's life, he was extremely withdrawn. He didn't see anyone. He didn't even engage us in too much conversation. Normally Swami is always light and always laughing, but even though he was extremely light and happy, but you could see that this world of Maya, this delusion no longer allowed his energy to go forth towards it, and he was more and more in a withdrawn state. And more he was trying to feel what Master wants of him. He kept saying to us, what else is there for me to do? Because Swami's life has always been of service to his Guru, and he felt more and more this body was becoming a burden for him and not allowing him to do all that he wanted to do, and he wanted to do a lot. When he said, oh, next time I come to India, I want to go to Hyderabad, and I want to go to Mumbai again, and I want to do a talk in Delhi again. But then he realized, and he says, but this body won't let me. And I think during those days he was really having a deep conversation with Master and asking really what you want. And it was possible that Swami could have stayed longer with us, but we really feel that it was Master's grace that said, bas, ho gaya. You've done everything you could do for me, you've done more. I won't let you go through this anymore, no more suffering. Master said to Swami, death itself will be the final sacrifice, and you will find God at the end of your life. And I think he didn't want to prolong Swami's union any longer. And so again, it was such a blessing to be able to witness that, but really Swami was for everyone. He never, I don't know what karma fortunately we had with him, but never in all this time that I knew him did he ever treat anybody differently. He loved everybody so dearly, and he truly felt such a responsibility more and more for all his disciples, but especially for India. He wanted to spend his last years in India, as everyone knows. And I think for all of us now, it's an opportunity really to tune into Swamiji and to feel his presence, to feel his guidance, and try to take this mission forward. You know, when we were in CC, I happened to get a wristwatch, which I usually don't wear. And Swami is very particular about time. You know, if somebody says, oh Swami, I'll be there at 5 o'clock, at 5 and 1 second Swami says he's late. And Swami himself would never want to get to any place either late or early, always on time. And so when I happened to have this wristwatch, Swami says, Shurjo, what's the time? And I said, Swami, 10:25. He said, how many seconds? I said, 30 seconds. He's like, no, my watch says 26 seconds, change your watch. So I changed my watch. And a few days later, Shurjo was the time. And similarly, it was a little off. So this happened quite a few times, and I kept thinking, Swami is really particular about time, and he wants me to always be on time. But I realized that what Swami was saying is, Shurjo, are you in tune? And for us, it's like, oh, I'm a few seconds off. But for Swami, it's like, change your watch. Be in tune. Don't be satisfied with being a few seconds off. Always tune into what Swami was trying to create for Master. And I think it's really just an opportunity now for us to make much more spiritual progress. We always left all the big and heavy lifting to Swami, and now it's time for us to do some heavy lifting ourselves. God bless you.
So as Shurjo was saying, we know some of you, because Daya has been sending us pictures of the work here in Delhi, of all your beautiful faces, and not only to us, she used to send to Swami often, when big gatherings were happening, or with some pre-initiations or talks, she always sent to Swami pictures, so Swami saw many of your faces. So even though some of you didn't have a personal contact with him, he knew each one of you, and he always was very happy to hear, how you all were helping him in the distance, and he was always very, very, very touched. In fact, yesterday when we were coming from the airport, Shurjo and I were just realizing how much faith Swami had for the work in India and with you all, because we know it's not that easy to be in India, especially for a body as Swami had, that he had difficulties, and he just did the tapasya, and with joy, of course, to come back to India, especially last year, touring all over India, city to city, just to be with you all, to give energy to India. And for me, it was extremely touching to see how, even though that last touring was really, really tiring for him, he was ready to come back. He was ready to to be with you all again, and he said to us many times that the greatest work will be in India, and India will be the guru of the world. So watching yesterday through the streets, how I thought, wow, how much Swamiji really, wanted for this country to be really the guru of the world. I came to Ananda around 10 years ago, and I had like an instant recognition with this path and with Swami. And the first time I went to Assisi, and the first day I thought, I want to live here. This is my place, this is what I have been looking for, and I didn't know what it is, but this is it. These are the people, this is the place, this is the kind of consciousness that I want to be part of. And since then moment on, I started traveling to each community, and it happened that in each community that I was going, Swami was there. So it became like a tradition for me to follow Swamiji's footsteps. In each community, I was there too. Then he moved to Pune, and I moved to Pune too, so we were like 6 people on that land, 1 dog and 2 or 3 cows, and that's it. And I was helping the work in Pune on the land, but I didn't have that proximity, that closeness, physical closeness with Swamiji. But he called me several times, I'm writing the time tunnel, why don't you come over and read it and tell me how do you like it? And I went several times with a group of us for dinner, or he put me much more into his aura in a much more conscious way. And all of a sudden, one of the afternoons that I came over for tea to read the time tunnel, he said, I want to go to Spain. I'm from Spain. I want to go to Spain, and I want to do the book launch of Autobiography of a Yogi, and I would like for that book to be translated into Spanish, and I would like to do this, and I would like to do that, and I would like for you to organize the whole event. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was my first really thing that he was asking me for in a big way, and I was in India. And he wanted to go 2 months after. So I had to find the hall to make sure that the book was translated in time. So anyway, by God's grace, the whole event was organized. So we went to Seville. And I don't know if you have heard that Master say that in one of his previous lifetimes, he was a king in Spain. And we did some research, a member of Ananda, and we found out that it was Ferdinand III. So Swami wanted to know by himself what kind of energy was in that place where Ferdinand lived and died. And it happened that every year, the 30th of May, they bring out the body of Ferdinand III, that's supposed to be Master, and they open the casket, so everyone can see him, not touch him because it's in a glass case, so everybody can go and meditate or pray. So we went, just a very small group of us in that moment, 5 or 6 of us. And Swami went there in that cathedral, we went to the body, and he stood there without moving, standing up, not even sitting, for 40 minutes, with his closed eyes, and just feeling, tuning into that saint that was his guru, and in previous life, his father, because we find out that Ferdinand III had a son, and it was called Alfonso X. And we find out that Alfonso X, we believe, we cannot make a fact, but we believe very strongly, even Swami believed that he was his son, Alfonso X. So after that meditation, 40 minutes, we left. Swami stood almost 1 full hour without talking with any of us. And it was a very, very turning point in Swami's life, and of course in my life, because after that trip, Swami said, you know, I have been feeling that I'm getting old and I need some kind of personal assistance where I can have around, and I have been asking to Master if he could just send someone who can help me and just help me with my daily things. And I think that person could be you. And when we were in the tomb, I asked Master, and if you could be that person, and I received an instant blessing. So I think you should be that person. So from then on, I started to helping Swami in a much more close way, and helping with many things, because even though his consciousness was really, really far, he still had to travel to deal with, you know, his body and to walk slowly, and I had to bring him several things and just to be of his assistant. And since that point until 21st of April was around 4 years. And in these 4 years have been, the greatest blessing of my life. And I'm sure for all of you too, you know, who had a contact with him, not only personally, but through his books, through his music, through his teachings. He's creating a relationship with each one of you, with each one of us. And he still will do that. So he has not gone anywhere. He is much more alive than before. And anyway, those 4 years, I would like to share 2 stories that touch me deeply. I have several stories, but these 2 have been transforming for me. It's more represent, Swamiji's kindness, love, and compassion. But those were qualities that were already defined. They didn't have that personality. Yes, he had the human aspect, but everything he did was coming from the divine. He was really a channel. What Shurjo say? You couldn't see, you couldn't distinguish at the very end where Swamiji finished and Master began. And one of the first story, we came last year when we came to, or 2 years ago, sorry, 2 years ago when we came to India, we stopped in his house, Guru Kripa, the first house that we had first in Gurgaon. And we had like a long trip. We came from Rome, several hours on the train, in the plane, and his body was a little bit, painful, and the muscles. So Diana said, Swami, why don't you just send someone, which we know, to give you some massage and just in your feet and in your head so you can relax a little bit more. And Swami said, sure, let him come. So Diana sent over this young guy, I don't remember his name, and he came to Swami's room. I was there, and he started to do his massage. Swami was very quiet. He was letting, this young boy do his own thing. And at the very end, when he finished, Swami said, so, what are you doing? I mean, is this your job? And he said, no, this is my job, but I work in a studio or in a place where I have a boss. So the boss always tell me what I have to do, how many clients come, but I'm just like earning very little. So when I finish my job at 7, just go, if I have any extra clients, I go, so it's when I can really earn more money. And Swami asked him, but do you have a table massage where you can do? He said, no, I don't have enough money to buy it. And Swami said, I will buy it for you. It was the first exchange that they had. I will buy it for you. And he said, well, I don't know how it goes. I will buy it for you. And then he said, I think it will cost around, 5,000 rupees, he said. And Swami said, sure, no problem. Whatever it is, I will buy it for you. Just come in 2 or 3 days, because he was coming back again, give me another massage and I will give you the money there. So he came 2 or 3 days after, and he gave his massage and everything, and at the very end Swami said, oh, thank you so much, so let me give you the money. And he said, I'm so sorry, but I did some research and the table massage is much more, it's around 25,000 rupees. And Swami said, no problem, I will pay for it. So he went to his wallet, he put the money out, and he gave to him. And he said, oh, Swamiji, thank you so much. And he said, I hope that this help you to do whatever you have to do, to support your family, and I'm happy to do that. And then he blessed the guy, and that finished. But for me, the most touching thing is when Swami stood in his room. I came down with this young boy to come showing the door outside, and he said, this is how Swami, does for all of us, helping us. So he told me, he said, I'm so touched. He said, because I'm an orphan. No one really wanted to take me. I didn't have any family. Even when I was 6 or 7 years old, I didn't know who my parents were. No one really wanted to take care of me. So then I started to grow up myself, and I started to go through life. And then I met a girl, and we really are in love. We got married, and now my wife is pregnant, and we don't really have that much. So for me, what Swami is doing is really important. And he said, and then I saw why Swamiji really did that, not for the money or for the table. Then he said, for me, I always thought all these years what it would mean to have a father who could take care of you, or a father who, in moments of need, who he could respond. And I always had that desire to know how does it feel. And he said, and when Swami did that for me without knowing me, I just felt it was my father. I found that father that I was looking for, and I saw in him. And so then on, I realized how that was the way of Swami helping people to a soul level. It wasn't that much what he was giving you materially, or the blessing that he was giving you, which it was very important, but it was how he was ready to fulfill every desire from your soul, or every pain, or every sorrow, or every nostalgia in such a deep level. And for me that was very special. Then I came up to Swami and I say, Swami, he told me all those things, and he just was quiet. He didn't say anything, and then he said, I'm very happy. God is the doer. And really Swami channeled Master and God to let him know to that young boy that he's not alone. Though he doesn't have earthly family, he has his heavenly Father. And that was very, very touching for me. The second story that I would like to share is similar and not similar. We went last year, we went to Rome, and Swami was going to present the book launch of a biography of Yogananda. It was translated into Italian. So we went to Rome for this book launch, and at that point, 2 years ago, Swami was more able to walk, just only with one person, and sometimes by himself, but usually with one person, and that person usually it was me, because I was with him. So we went to Rome, we went to the hotel, and he said, well, let's go out, I want to have a walk. So we went for a walk together, just a little bit, just a few 10, 15 minutes walking, and then come back. And we saw that it was in the street, like a woman, but she was deformed. She had her hands like this. You could see that she wasn't able to do anything in her life. Just her hands were very deformed. Her feet were really deformed. She couldn't even stay in a wheelchair, so she had to use like a little square with 4 wheels, so she could, move and go wherever she had to go. So we saw her the first time, and we didn't say anything, but both of us looked at her. I don't know what Swami was thinking then, but I know what I was thinking, like, wow, poor woman, what a kind of karma, she has to be like this, such a difficult, her life must be, she was, of course, a beggar, because she couldn't do anything. But I didn't say anything, I was just thinking those things. Then the next day, again, Swami, let's go out for a walk at the same time. So we went through the same path, and she was there again. And then we saw her, and then I told him, I said, Swami, such a, strange karma people have to be when they come deformed and they have, this life. I feel so sad for them. I wish I could, help them somehow, or give them, I don't know, anything. And then he said, no, it's true. Who knows, what they have done in the past. That's it. He didn't say anything. But for some reason I felt the story didn't end there. So the next day, Swami, that evening we did the book launch, everything was wonderful, and the next day we were about to leave. So we were ready with our suitcase and everything, just ready for the taxi, and then he told me, let's go for the last walk. And I said, okay. So we went for the last walk, and that lady wasn't there anymore. And he said, "Ooh, she's not here." He said, "He's not here. She's not here. I wonder where is she?" And I said, "Well, Swami, I'm sure she will come. It's too early of our time." He said, "I hope so." So then we came to the hotel, and we were about to leave, and Swami called to one of the bellmen who were in the hotel and said, "Please, could you come one moment?" And he said, "Do you know that woman who comes here often?" And he said, "No, I don't know who is she." And Swami said, "Yes, that woman who cannot walk, who cannot do anything." No, I don't know who is she." And Swami said, "I know she's going to come back. So please," he came out like from his wallet. He came out with maybe 10,000 rupees. No, 10,000. No, 2,000 or 3,000 rupees. He said, "Please, if you see her, give this to her and tell her that God loves her." And then the man says, "Okay, I'll do that." And when Swami said that, he had tears in his eyes. And that made me realize that this is God's message, Master and Swami's message. No matter what we have done in the past, or in other past lifetimes, or what we did yesterday, doesn't matter. God loves us. And that will be our anchor. That should be our anchor, and just keep going, because He loves us. He's going to be with us no matter what we do. It has to be our duty to love Him in return. And again, that was one of other moments, that I could see the level of divine love that Swami had for each person, even beggars. It doesn't matter. He gave the same attention to a beggar that he could have given to one of his best friends for 30 years. He treated each one of us equal. And if he saw a need in someone's soul to help them to realize something, he went to the heart of it and helped that person in that level. And in fact, one of his last books he was writing is called Love Perfected, Life Divine. He was already in that divine unconditional love. And in that book shows how, no matter how many incarnations we go through, how many mistakes we go through, at the very end, it's our destiny to become one with that love. And I think Swami's life has been a constant example of that divine love, for each one of us, for his guru, of course, and for all of us. And I just wanted to share those two stories, and I would like for all of us to close eyes for a moment. And try to see and feel Swami's love, Swami's unconditional love and divine friendship in our hearts. Try to visualize if you had any exchange with him through eyes, or he sent you a smile, or through his music, a moment that he has touched your heart. And let's thank him deeply for all that he has done for us, all that he's doing, and all that he will do for the eternity for each one of us. Thank you, Swami. God bless you. Oh. 10 more minutes if any of you have any questions or any specific thing you would like to know, or we could share. We will be happy to.
I want to request you, my sincere request with you, that please try to pen down your experience in the Swamiji for the last 4 years. You're carrying such a treasure within you of his memories, what he did in the last 4 years. The way Swamiji wrote new parts of Master's last 4 years. Please do that, and it will be really a great gift to all of us.
Thank you. In fact, I'm thinking to do that. And in these 4 years, when he had some radio interviews or some specific private meetings with people, he usually wanted me there. Of course, he had some hearing problems, so he needed someone to help, but I was able to witness some of the conversations, so I took some notes, some quotes, and I really hope to do that, soon. I think I'm still digesting the whole process, and it will take me a little while until I can put, all those things together. But of course, what I have gained is not for me. I'm so eager to share with all of you, but I need to tune into how and when Swami wants me to do that. I think I have been for 4 years constantly, right there, that I feel I will need a few months just to digest and make sure that whatever I share it with the right spirit and with his vibrations, and just trying to put the whole project together. But thank you, I absolutely will do that. Okay, so we can go.
So let's bless Shurjo and Narayani. Thank you for coming. So let's ask Master and Swamiji to bless them in their journey now. They're going to Pune to serve. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in Shurjo and Narayani. Bless them with thy presence. Help them to be clear, pure channels for thy blessing.